That's what they did. They sold it for $1. DraftKings sold it. They bought it for $3, and then they sold it back for $1. Is what my understanding. That's what I heard. Yeah. I mean, that's crazy. You got to get advertised. No water for me.
But Ray, you never got those glasses for us. Something I asked you in life.
I just sold them.
Yep. Okay. Sold them?
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Jim Feist NFL Pro Handicap Football Show here on the patio at Tom DeMarco's Pizzeria. Where the wine flows and the good times roll. My name is Tommy Canale. I'll be your moderator for the show. I'm going to introduce the panel and then bring in the man whose name is on the show. Bringing back somebody who's here with us, I believe, in the first week with over 25 years of experience in the world of sports betting, the crack man, Bill Krackomberger. Bill, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Also next to him, a man who has won the Las Vegas Hilton Super Contest in back-to-back seasons. He is known as an advantage player that uses probability and statistics to maximize the expected value of wages. Steve Fezzik, welcome to the show.
Warning, there may be math today. Warning.
Everybody get your calculators, your erasers, we're going to need math. And then a man who really doesn't need any introduction, the man whose face and name is on the show, Jim Feist.
Well, it's great to be here. Great to have Bill and Steve here today. I'm going to be a little afraid when Steve starts talking about numbers because I don't think I can keep up with them.
Let's talk numbers right off the bat with this because I'm a Tampa fan. I believe this is going to be a topic of conversation. Do you believe they should have won for 2 or not?
You asking me?
I'm asking you.
I'm going to say yes and no.
Oh, well, it's got to be one, Jim.
Well, it depends on who you're playing. And since you're playing the best quarterback, the best offensive coordinator, and the best defensive coordinator that's won 2 Super Bowls going for a 3-peat, I really don't want to play another quarter against them. So for me, I go for it.
Steve?
Now, if you're playing somebody else with less talent, less skill, more prone to making mistakes, I'd probably go to the overtime.
Steve, would you have done it if it was in Tampa?
This is an awesome question. I literally could write a book on this. I could write 300 pages, but Jim is directionally spot on. When you're the underdog, and you can, if it goes to overtime, and you don't guarantee you make the kick in the rain, right? Mm-hmm. But if you go to overtime, you're an underdog to win. You're only going to win like 40% of the time. You're going to make the 2-point conversion more than 40%. So you go but this is an important if, there's less than 30 seconds left. Why is that critical? And there were less than 30 seconds left.
Yeah.
So they should have gone, because you cannot go with a minute to go. Because you don't win if you get the 2-point conversion. And now the other team can go balls to the you-know-what, to go crazy because they're down 1. And then, but in this case, with only 27 seconds left, there wasn't enough time, unless your Buffalo kick out of the end zone. You mortar kick it to the 2, another 5 seconds run off. And the number one reason why Jim's correct to go for it, for 2 here. Get on the phone. Hey, Andy Reid, what would you like us to do? Oh, you want us to kick the extra point? I mean, literally, if you have Survivor and you have the Chiefs, you're like, please, God, kick the extra point. We'll get it done in overtime, right?
As a Tampa fan, I was screaming at the TV. I mean, I wanted to go for 2 because I didn't want to.
You know, Steve has said that on multiple shows. I listen to a lot of his shows, and I'm going to tell you something. I don't listen to many people's shows, so I listen to his shows. He has said that every team should have a professional gambler, a knock-around guy, street guy, common sense guy. Every coach should have one of them at his side or in his ear or in someone's ear. Is that right, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. Just the analytics. I'll explain why later. We got to go for 2.
Right.
You know?
Just go for it. We'll tell you why. I'll tell you why later, Coach. Just go for it now. I'll explain to you later. I love that.
Most of your coaches, offensive, defensive coordinators, have played football or been around football their whole lives. Now, just a few years ago, analytics comes in and everybody's looking at a chart and they get numbers and somebody's saying, oh yeah, we're supposed to do this. Has that confused these people that have played normal football for 20 and 30 years, even 40 years of coaching and football, and they don't know what the hell they're doing?
Yeah, like a great example is look at you're down 14, it's late in the game. Late in the 4th quarter, you score a touchdown. And so literally, like you hear these terms, like high-low analytics and everything else, you should go for 2. And it's not, it's really very simplistic math. And the idea for going for 2 there is that you literally, simple assumptions. You say, I'm going to get one more touchdown, and my opponent is not going to get any more scores in regular time. I'm going to simplify and say I always make extra points, all right? And I make the 2-point conversion half the time. If I just kick the extra point twice, I'm going to win half the time if we're equal teams. If I go for 2, I win 5/8 of the time. It's not even close. I mean, it's such a slam dunk, and yet there's to this day announcers that will vehemently disagree with it. And Pierce for the Raiders, he just did not an analytics guy, doesn't have an analytics team, and he's just winging it. And it drives me crazy. These are billion-dollar companies. Hire a guy that explains to you that when you're down 8, you go for 2.
And people in the sports books, though, what do they say? This is fixed. This is why you shouldn't bet. This is a fix. They're going for. That's what you hear. It's the biggest 3-letter word that I hear in sports books. That aggravates me. It bothers me that I hear that word so many times. Things are fixed, and it's, by the way, it's only fixed against them. It's never, that's fixed. That's why I want it. You know, like it just, it's not. There's analytics. There's more things. You know, go to any sports book on any Sunday, any given Sunday or Saturday. See what happens. People don't even know what they want to bet. Every sports book in town, you get shut out 10 minutes to post. People get shut out in every single sports book, and they're betting it into the most efficient line, the Sunday line 10 minutes before. On my Fox show, Fox Sports Radio, I have a challenge. It's called the Crack Challenge. My 2 co-hosts, I let them bet against the spread. I say, listen, give me 5 games every week against the spread, 5 minutes before the game. There's no way you're going to win, and that's, of course, proven that this year through 9 weeks they're getting buried.
So think about what Bill's saying here. All right, if we own a sports book, and now I think there's a Nevada statute that said you're not allowed to accept wagers unless they're marked live wagering after the game start. But as documented in the great book, The Odds, Chad Millman, he says, well, but a few minutes between bookmaker and bettors really doesn't matter, does it now? Just keep it open on the sides and the totals till like 10:05. You know, it's fine, and take all this action. Don't let someone bet a first quarter. You know, don't let someone pass post you and the Eagles get the ball and they run the kickoff back to the midfield. But on a side total, absolutely.
Bill, let me go here, and Steve, you can follow up with it. The trade deadline has come and gone. Crack, what trade do you think was best suited for which team, and what's it worth to them?
You can't ask me stuff like that. You can ask Steve stuff like that. Yeah, I'm a guy that...
He's a more probability guy.
No, I'm a guy that literally I have a team of guys around me, one of which is Steve, by the way, that gives me games that they think they do the work. Sorry about that. I mean, he does the work. I do the betting. And I have the sharpest guys in the world. Steve's one of them. But I have 5 Steve Fezziks in my life. It's the reason why I need to be liquid and have tons of money in the sports books. But they're the ones that come. Listen, I'm going to kind of embarrass Steve. We have been on a stupid tear for years. Am I right? I won't say the number, but it's a very, very large. I think it's more towards 7 figures. Steve says 6, so high 6. We have been on a tear where that means is Steve says, hey, can you play this for me? Can you play this for us? Can you play this for us? And I got to be blunt, Steve. You've never given me money. So for the last 3 years, 4 years, I've never gotten $1 off you.
Well, what's interesting is I finally lost a really big bet against Crack, but we didn't lose it to the Bucks. I lost it to your buddy on the election.
Oh, 10,000.
Yeah. So I was like, that doesn't even count, right?
Steve had 10,000 on Kamala Harris minus 105. However, I find out that you understand, like, that really wasn't. If you talked to Steve 3 months ago, he would have said Trump.
Well, then this was for my buddy. My buddy said, hey, and by the way, I do this all the time. You know, like why pay the juice if you've got 2 guys, and we see that with betting exchanges now. How if 2 differing opinions, just pair it up and go ahead and not pay the big. Back to Bill's being very nice to me. I actually have people. To answer the question, like with the trade deadline, Detroit's the best team. I have Detroit rated 7.5 better than average team, but the Hutchinson injury, their edge rusher, losing him was huge. So picking up a replacement for him was very important. And suddenly, I'm actually for the first time thinking, the Lions could win the Super Bowl. How about that?
Hell yeah! Is the replacement as good?
No,
close to.
No one, not even close. But Hutchinson's, I would say, is worth like a point and a quarter. But now you've got this void, and now you're picking up, a very good player.
What's the player the replacement player, what does he knock off of that 1 point per quarter?
Probably half.
Half?
Yeah, I think so. And again, like, it's not like we're all in the union. We're not all these wise guys smoking cigars. He's worth 0.68 points. You know, he could be worth only half a point. He could be worth 0.9 points. I'm just estimating.
Does Marshawn Latimer move the needle for the Commanders?
Absolutely.
How much?
So that defense has been soft. And you got a shutdown corner. I got to see if he's going to be healthy. Was he not playing because he was unhappy, or was he not playing because he's going to have an injury all year long? But just having him to be able to take away the number one wide receiver is just huge.
And just to go back what I was saying, that's not to say that I don't know indicators in the market. I know this screen like the back of my hand. I've been betting sports for a living, paying tax on sports betting for almost 30 years. So I have indicators in the market where I know if Jazz is going to move first on my screen, or if someone moves a hair, I know the rest of the market. I know which way things get manipulated on the screen. I can just tell by things by all these years' experience. So I think that's where my specialty comes in. A lot of times someone will say, "Hey, Crack, get us +7 on the New England Patriots," and they say, "Oh, well, Westgate has it," or not South Point, because they don't charge shoes. Well, I'll realize they don't realize you can actually get that somewhere else, maybe in far off places, but you can get it somewhere else minus $1.08. Why pay $1.10? They don't, a lot of the analytical guys, a lot of the brains, the geniuses in the world, sometimes they're geniuses. They're unbelievable, but they cannot talk. We've had someone that was hired on ESPN that was a mathematical, analytical guy, and it was like he was speaking in tongues. They fired him in 3 weeks. I mean, they just, that's why you guys are really fortunate today to have Steve on the show. I was going to let him do most of the talking today because he doesn't do many shows. The shows he does, his time is so limited this time of the year, and it's great and he's gotten much better at the. Sorry, I'm just telling you did.
I copy your.
I listen
much better.
I listen to Steve every week, and yourself when you do the VEASAN with Gil.
Yeah.
And both of you, and I never miss a show.
Yeah, no, he's gotten much better in this. I listen to every single show. I like your Jim. I like your gloves. You're like my buddy Andrew Dice Clay. You look like. Yeah.
You know what this is? Yeah. For years, I've had a problem with intermittent arthritis.
Oh, so I thought it was just trying to be cool.
No, it just,
you should have went with it, Jim. Just say you're being cool.
You should have said.
I need the sympathy book.
Remember the Dice Man movie where at the end there was a koala bear that disappears, and at the very end the bear comes back, a pet detective, and he goes, "Hey, you think we're going to kill the koala bear? Come on!"
And now, just real quick, I am friends with Andrew. I've been to his house many times. I'm friends with him. He's actually a misunderstood guy, but us guys like him. But the girls hate him sometimes. Years ago, love the Dice Man.
Dickory dog.
Yeah.
We'll leave it. I'll ask for some questions here in a second. Jim, let's talk about the game tonight. Cincinnati, Baltimore. I see the lines moved a little bit. Are you playing the game, and if so, what do you like?
Well, first of all, let's look at it the way most look at it. They're going to say, well, this is a big revenge game. Cincinnati just played them. They played them home, lost overtime. You got one of the best three teams at home, looks 6-point favorite. I think about 6 right now, 6.5.
It was yet 6. So I think it opened at 5.5.
Okay, the total's up at 53. It's one of the biggest totals of the year. You got this dynamic offense that nobody seems to be able to stop in Baltimore, but you also have Joe 53 and plus the dog. I also think, but I think the better bet might be Burrow Cincinnati over 23.5 points. I think that might be the better bet.
Yeah, they scored a ton of points last time, overtime game. So the public automatic is going to bet the over. At that number, it opened up 51 at circa. I can't play the over in that situation now at 53. And that's the way Joe Public is going to play. Probably. You think right away, oh my God, they scored 79 before. They could easily do that now. Correct. So I just try to stay away from something like that.
Definitely chasing a bad number. There's no question about it.
What about you, Steve?
So one thing that drives me crazy with the mainstream media, and to be fair, they're asked the question, and everyone has an opinion. Oh, I like Baltimore in this game. I like the Giants. I like Buffalo. The truth is, if you ask me on the entire card, and I know it's early in the week, but it's not so early. It's Wednesday, and so this is how the industry has changed. I'm old enough, I'd wake up on Sunday morning, and Jim would have his game of the year, and it would move 2.5 points. And now it just doesn't happen anymore because now the market gets whacked out so early. And famously, Alan Boston laments it. He's like, "Why is everybody betting so much so early and ruining the market?" But the market is so efficient that I would say you have to reinvent yourself. So, like, you want to play the over? Well, you can't play over 53. It was the right side, but it got hit. So now look at derivatives. Look at ways to get at that over. Clever ways that are kind of under the radar. And one prop I like is go ahead and bet shortest touchdown under 1.5. If there's going to be a lot of touchdowns, and this is a bet we always like making on a high total Super Bowl, under 1.5, lay $1.50 is like a great bet. And that a lot of times the bookmaker, that's kind of their go-to price that they set on shortest.
We have
touchdown.
destroyed books, Steve and I, on this bet. Now we don't get it anymore, but every week, how much money do we make off this particular bet when the total was, you said 40 something?
When it hits like 49 or higher.
49 or higher to bet shortest touchdown under 1.5 yards. I don't even want to tell you how many weeks in a row we've done that. No, we've destroyed it. But to be honest with you, by sharing it with the public, we probably cost ourselves money. No, seriously.
The price on that's going to be minus like $3.
It used to be minus $1.20, $1.10, $1.30. I'm talking about for years. We have won maybe 6 figures on that bet.
But Jim gave you like the poster child how to win betting Cincinnati Bengals when Higgins is out. Because Higgins is out, boom, Gesicki becomes the number 2 option. Now it's already steaming because the game, is indeed tonight, so he's up from I think from the high 40s into the mid 50s. But that's an example where literally you can have your little chart where you can say, all right, if Higgins is out, here's the dude that I bet over. And look, Baltimore can't stop anybody. So Bo Nix, all right, they were down by 20 points, but he's just picking them apart. He's having a terrible game. He still goes over. So I could only look at Burrow over and for, Gesicki and Chase to go over. But again, every what's the public going to bet? Exactly what I'm saying. So these aren't bets I think you could win playing at post, but if you play it earlier in the day or preferably earlier in the week, I think you got the best.
You had the same situation the other night with Tampa when the number 1 and number 2 wide receivers are out and Otten got all the yardage. It was over Otten was kind of a give-me.
And even in live bet, even if you're so late to the party and you've just been smoking dope all week and you didn't even follow nothing, it's like every 4th pass is to this tight end dude, right? That at 11 yards, 8 yards, 9 yards, and he winds up with 80 or whatever it is. It's so spot on, yes.
Steve, is this a game that you can maybe do a first half total?
I'll pull back the curtain tomorrow. I'm costing us so much money here. I love these standalone games. To this point, if you have a buddy in the stadium, all right, he needs to send you a text.
This is really giving away some stuff here.
Should I shut up?
No, I'm just saying, I know we're going to, if this gets out there, though, people, they say things and they, threaten us. I'm not joking. I was threatened by these. What are they going to do? Hit me with their pencil in their backpack? What are they going to do? No, I mean, these nerds, they threaten you, or telephone tough guys under Twitter, which, by the way, you don't even know. On VSiN this morning, I invited all of them to come down here. I did.
Don't see nobody.
No, I'm just telling you.
Yeah. So you got a buddy. Let's say Scott Spritzer's at the game. All right, it so happens. Scott, I want you to send me a text 4 minutes before the game starts, and all I want is the name of the team that's getting the ball.
Courtside. It's called courtside.
Yeah. So I mean, think about that. Getting the total's 53. There's not going to be a lot of punts. Getting the ball first is such an enormous advantage. If you knew Baltimore was getting the ball first, Baltimore to score first, Baltimore first quarter. Now the books have become savvy to that. They pull that off faster now. But even like you asked me about first half, it's like I would like Baltimore if I knew they had the ball. But without that, it's like on a standalone game on Sunday, it's largely impossible. But Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night, I want to pass post that information. And hey, it's not my job to pull the lines off. If they're up, I'll bet into them.
Jim, did you know about this? I'm even going to go a little bit further.
I claim the
fifth. So listen. now listen.
Yeah, they're never going to invite me back. I'm just giving away their secrets.
I have a big family that lives in Cleveland, and I do find out what's going on.
We get the info for every single primetime game, Monday, Thursday, Sunday night games. But I'll just tell you this. So what you're essentially betting here, I'm even going to take it a step further, first quarter and third quarter. That's what you want to do. However, like I tell these statistical nerds that I deal with, not meaning you.
I qualify.
I tell these guys, well, I'll tell these guys because I know what's up here. If you want to do that against one of these sports books that I can't stand, like William Hill or Stations or something like that, I have no problem with that. However, if you're going to bet a PPH shop, a personal shop that you get from your local guy, you're dealing with maybe a knock-around guy, you're dealing with someone from back home, you're dealing with someone, you're cheating the bookmaker. Now you're cheating an individual. An individual, you're cheating now.
Cheat is a little strong.
I'm telling you, if you're cheating a guy that you probably shouldn't be cheating. Now, granted, we get our accounts from people that aren't telling him it's Bill Krackomberger or Steve Fezzik. We're getting them from Joe Blow. Joe Blow is getting them and saying, I'm a square, I love to bet. But now you're betting something that could be on the border of cheating. So I have no problem doing it to the sports books that cheat us. I have no problem with that, because there are sports books. Yes, there are brick and mortar. There are multi-billion-dollar companies that cheat us. That's right, you heard it. Cheat us, especially on live wagering. So I have no problem doing that to them. Got to be careful of doing it to the guys back home.
By a show of hands, how many people have like made a wager and gotten? They're trying to bet on Tampa, and you hit submit, and here comes the hourglass, and the clock is spinning.
Oh boy!
And you're waiting, and Baker Mayfield interception. Oh, your bet's been approved.
That's right.
You know?
That's what I do. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Years ago, I mean, we go back a long way because I've been around a little longer. The only thing you could really bet was the side. Then they added the total. And then they added half times and things like that. The word propositions on players didn't even exist. Then they started adding that. And then, of course, when legalized betting comes in, you get the FanDuel and the DraftKings and everything. Now they're putting up so many different options that we didn't have. Now it sounds like you guys have taken advantage of some of that and analyzed it already. But these things didn't happen 20 years ago. You couldn't do the things that you're talking about. So you have jumped ahead and learned and taken advantage of it as this is proceeding.
Just trying to reinvent yourselves. Like I realize every day I wake up and I realize how stupid I was yesterday. I mean, it's true. You know,
Steve will tell you that right to your face. Yeah, definitely. So he'll say like he has had those things in the past where he said years ago that stuff like that happened, we still learn things every day.
It's kind of the more I know, I don't know.
And it's a lot of work. Like one suggestion, if you like to live wager, I would say, and it's a pain in the neck because I've talked to Don Best, they won't do it, even though I pay him $500 a month. I want a football and college football. I do it myself in the NFL. Show me a little football on who got the ball first. Because how am I possibly going to be able to wager a second half without that knowledge? I got to look it up.
Very good.
But here's the thing: the bookmakers usually get that right. They adjust it. But I love that they say 2 for 1. I don't understand why they say 2 for 1. It's a 2 for 0. I got the ball with 2 minutes to go in the first half, and I'm getting the ball to start the second half. That ain't a 2 for 1. That's a 2 for 0.
Exactly.
I'm getting 2 possessions. Think how strong that is.
Well,
if you like the team already.
Hey, I can tell you, I used to coach college basketball, and I used to play it. If I had the arrow coming out of second half, I would play for the last possession, so I had back-to-back possessions, and I could stretch a lead or I could dive into a deficit before going into halftime, come out, get it, and score again. And all of a sudden, I can flip a game.
And these college basketball coaches, and then they will do this in 20 years. Like in the final, if the other team has the final shot, you're gonna put in a guy that isn't any good, and you're just gonna hack. You're gonna hack the worst free throw shooter and put him on the line. You're gonna get the last shot, and the expectation will work out. Yeah, their possession's worth a little bit more, but now you get a possession, and they don't do that right now, but they will 20 years from now.
Yeah. Any questions out there from the audience? Anybody on the panel? Everybody got a question? Want to raise your hand? Go ahead, Ray.
Ray.
We're pretty heavy in Washington this week. That being said, I'm probably going to do a little more. I see Jaden Daniels' MVP props is a little bit ridiculous, but to win it all, it's plus 1,000. Washington is 7-2. What more does this guy have to do? Can it be done? And the big question is this: plus 1,000 since I'm there tonight, sprinkling a little more at 2.5.
It's a fantastic question.
And I'd be like, Lamar loses. Lamar doesn't have a great game. Jaden smokes him. They're 8-2. Where does that move to? And how realistic is this Jaden Daniels to become MVP after tonight?
Hang on before you guys.
Does this get into serious consideration?
Let me just repeat that for the live audience. The question is, how realistic is it that Jaden Daniels could win the MVP at the numbers he's at. Crack, you want to take it?
You know, well, first of all, I don't know if Steve knows this. So yesterday, Steve tells me, "Hey, Crack, South Point's got a really good line on Washington game, and it's 3. It's 2.5 minus juice or 3 dog juice." So yesterday, and meanwhile, I have Washington. I have Washington money line. So I have Washington money line at good prices, and Steve says, "No, the other side." So we're on opposite sides on this game.
No, it's not,
well, maybe not though.
That's not true.
Okay.
That's not true.
Okay.
So here's the math. Like with the question about Washington, we'll address everything.
Yeah.
And Jaden Daniels and being MVP. So let's say Crack bets Washington minus 2.5. All right, and he's going to go, if he bet that 100 times, he's going to go 48, 42, and 10. All right, so take away the 10. That's solid. That's positive expectation. That's a winning bet, even a minus 2.5, and he got a better number than minus 2.5. But now let's bring it to 3. All of a sudden, I don't win those. I don't win the 10 times that it lands on 3 anymore. I push. So now I go 38 and 42 because I have to shave off that 10 for my win, and that goes in the Pittsburgh column. So it's so razor thin that literally, if you told me no vig, Washington minus 2.5, absolutely. No vig, Pittsburgh plus 3, absolutely. Both bets. You know, now laying $1.10, can they both be good? It turns out they're both break even. If you lay 2.5, lay $1.10, and take plus 3, lay $1.10, that's like break even. I would pump the brakes on Washington, and here's why. They played great. The offense doesn't punt. They pick up an average of 40 yards per every possession. But they have been bad in the red zone, all right? Now, maybe that's an aberration, small sample size. I'm worried about Jaden Daniels. He already had the 1 rib injury. Mm-hmm. So if he catches, running quarterbacks tend to get injured, and once they get 1 injury, they tend to get another one. I think you're going to do better with the mechanical parlay. Just wait. They are going to make the playoffs, and if you just bet Washington to win their first playoff game and then roll it over, keep rolling it over, because they're not going to get the respect in the playoffs from the wise guys, because the feeling is that, Jim and I go way back, so like I'm trying to think of like a team that came out of nowhere, and like the Niners were terrible back in 1981 with Joe Montana. They won like 3 games, and then they won it all, and famously, the Kurt Warner Rams did that. So
Brady did it with Tampa.
But Brady did it with Tampa, but they were good. They had a high,
and it was Brady.
Yeah, they had a high season win number. They were respected. But to come out of nowhere, Washington's over/under was 7, and it seems like this is true in the NBA playoffs. Also, you got to pay your dues, make the playoffs, and then the next year maybe you could become a true contender.
But also to your point,
one quick thing, just
ahead.
to remind you that the reason that I like this Jaden Daniels character so much, and the reason that I believe in Washington tonight, just this little edge, is that I haven't seen this in a very long time. He's a running quarterback, but he's a throw first on the run quarterback.
Yeah, this is a great point. So Daniels is a throw first, and you can even see it. Why? And Bo Nix is pretty good at this too. Why, when these guys
on the run throw?
Right, he's looking down the field instead of like putting his head down and getting his bell rung like Anthony Richardson does. Oftentimes I don't like the MVP bet, and here's why. The default is, well, we just give him Rookie of the Year, and so because of that, I think there are exceptions. There wasn't.
There's a little bit of politics involved in this. In other words,
who was the Red Sox? who was the great Red Sox rookie like in '75 in the '70s that he won both? I think, but it's very rare to win a Rookie of the Year and be able to get an MVP.
But to answer your question too, Ray, you're right. People are saying that this kid doesn't get enough respect. He goes in with his body, dives in head first like Pete Rose. He really is. To answer your question though, you're probably, meaning us, anyone that bets, we're probably going to pay a little bit of tax now betting Washington. So you're probably going to pay that a little in tax, but that means more of a money line, a couple cents, maybe even a half a point. Just to give you an example, before we started the show, Washington was minus 2.5 at South Point. And I use South Point because they don't move juice. They go minus 2.5, minus 110, then they go to 3. They don't go to minus 2.5, minus 120. Now it's 3 again. So someone did lay Washington minus the 2.5, minus 110. It was there all morning. It was there this morning when I did VSiN. And someone just paid. You're probably going to pay a little bit of tax going forward. Yeah. Now Washington, everyone knows that how good they are, how good this kid is. But like Steve said, you don't know the injury, you don't know how much he's injured, how much he's going to get injured, the implied value of him. He's worth a lot of points. Like if something happens, if he goes down, yet the backup did do well. He's experienced. But he's worth a lot of points to that team. But it's a good question, like you do every week.
I have him worth 3 points to the line. I've got my quarterback
That's unbelievable.
ratings.
3 points is giant.
So
Yeah.
I've got
Mahomes
Jaden
territory.
Daniels. I got him my number 15 quarterback, and everyone's like, "Well, he's been way better than that." I agree, and this is going forward, And so I've got him right with Purdy, Kyler Murray, and Dak Prescott. That's the.
He scares me because he's the life of this team right now, and if he goes down, I mean, it could suck the life out of this team and the energy that they have because he brings a lot of energy to this offense.
Unless they're playing Carolina, that don't matter, right?
They have to wake up to play Carolina. They put them to sleep.
Jim, let me. You had brought up something a couple weeks ago about the New Orleans Saints, and they're one of the worst teams in football. They lose 7 in a row, and they finally fire their coach. I'm sure you like this move.
Well, he's a defensive coach that wasn't doing very well, and of course they suffered a lot of injuries as well. So he's going to get blamed not only for losing, but because they lost players, it looked a little bit worse. Now, I didn't like him from the beginning. I wasn't pro hire. I wasn't for that hire at all.
Do you like what? Let me rephrase that. Now that he's gone, sometimes these teams will rally around a guy that's an interim guy. Do you see this possibly happen?
Well, they're all fighting for the jobs. Not everybody gets a 25 to 30 or $50 million guaranteed contract that they're going to be there, like Watson up in Cleveland or something like that. These guys they're either playing football this year and next year they're bagging groceries at a grocery store. So they're all going to go out there and play hard. And there's a lot of new people that are coming in, replacing the old people, the ones that are injured. They're all trying to play football. They've been trying to play football. They're going to work hard. They're going to play hard. They all have motivation for different reasons, but usually they're selfish reasons. They're not going anywhere in the playoffs. They're not going to win the Super Bowl, but they're playing for their job. So yeah, they're going to pick it up, and they want to impress anybody that is the coach that they can keep their job next season. So yeah, there's a motivation there, and I don't know if they call it a dead cat bounce. I've heard that term before. You got a new guy in there, I want to impress him.
Let me throw a game at you guys that's coming up this weekend. With Detroit going to the Texans.
Well,
Correct? Is it still 3.5 and 49?
I actually took 4 on this game and thought I was a little bit of a genius at South Point early in the week, and now it went down to 3, and now it has bounced back to 3.5, even minus 3.5, minus 11 at Chris, which is one of the big ones offshore, but still minus 3.5, minus 08, both sides of Westgate, 108 juice there. I'm sticking with my side. I'd like to see, as a matter of fact, the Golden Nugget, which is that's a big out that Steve and I wish we had. The Golden Nugget, as you can see, they hang out. They hang lines that nobody will line. You can see all the black ones there in black. They're the only 4 maybe in the world right now in that game. But the Golden Nugget has some really good lines that unfortunately we're not really able to.
It's a great spot to go against the Lions.
Yeah, this is a good spot.
They just crushed Green Bay. It was totally embarrassing. I lost with the Packers last week, and it was just embarrassing. It was never even close. And this team is, like Steve said, probably the best team in football right now. And they just picked up the rusher on defense to replace the guy they lost. And Houston is not playing like they did last year. Stroud's having a regression. They had some injuries on wide receivers. They might get one guy back this week. They've also had defensive injuries. Taking 4 with Houston is what I did.
Primetime game at home.
But I'm a little afraid of, I got crushed last week with the Packers.
I got you.
It might happen again.
I'm like a politician. I can tell you why both sides are the right side, all right? And then you got to evaluate what's more important. So, like, we bring up the point, Jim's great point. Detroit, terrible spot, right? They just beat their rival, Green Bay, and the book is, Detroit can't play in the elements. Well, it was bad weather, shocker in Lambeau in November, right? And Goff goes 11 for 11 to start the game, and Green Bay just turns the ball over. The one problem I have with Detroit, and one reason I'm high on them, is that the last 2 weeks they haven't played at the second half. They had byes the last 2 within
They
all
find new ways to beat the shit out of you.
Tennessee. They ran 3 punts back, and the game was over at halftime, so everyone gets to rest. And then against Green Bay, they're up 14. It's like that movie, The Program, with Jordan Love. Remember that? It's like, Collins, don't throw it!
Right.
And he throws it to the wrong team, and the game's over. So now, like, this is the rest of the team, and it's a prime time game. Like, if this game was 10 a.m., I would like you guys to bet so much more than Sunday night Dan Campbell. Like, oh, it's time to show the whole country who the best team is. And if Nico Collins doesn't play, I mean, Stroud's struggling. So he was supposed to get him back this week, and now he's not practicing. And if he doesn't play, this line's going to go to 4.5, and our 4 is going to be lousy. Now, if Collins plays, now you got a great bet, +4. And so I think you got to. It's a speed game. You got to get that information. As soon as that hits, boom. I'll bet Houston +4, but I need Collins.
Any other questions out there from the audience before I ask the next question?
Oh, I have a question.
Go ahead, Ray.
Sure. You're here too. And you said a very magical word, derivatives. That's what I do. I do derivatives. Iron condor. I'm an iron condor guy, if you know what that is.
Ooh, what's an iron condor? I don't
An
know.
iron condor is what I applied my stock strategy to football, and I've been hot for the past 5 years, and I'm about to do it again, and we're going to talk about it real quick. An iron condor is a stock strategy where you write a call option and a short option, and you catch it in the middle. Don't
Okay.
play and lose. That's how Steve Cohen made all his money. It's called an iron condor. So here's what I did.
He's writing it down.
A few years ago, I got myself into a situation
Leave your
where I
card.
couldn't make a lot of bets. Okay? So I was on the phone, and I found a prop. Tom Brady played. Let's see, Tom Brady was that Super Bowl. This is when I started this. Tom Brady, yeah. So yeah, it was the year after Brady won, and it was week 10 of every year. Here we are, right? Plus 325 every year. I had the Chiefs that year. I had the Chiefs, Philly, and San Francisco to win the Super Bowl that year, plus 325. I was on the phone. I went a little happy as I possibly could. Then they moved me to a different institution. And a couple weeks went by and I got a little scared. And I put a few shekels on Cincinnati. Remember that year when they started to get a little frisky?
Yeah.
At 5-1? Anyway, it worked out well. I made a fortune. The next year, the same thing, plus 325, Kansas City, Philly, and I want to say someone else. And then last year, of course, we know what happened there. Well, here we are again, my friend. We're at week 10. Kansas City, Detroit, San Francisco to win the Super Bowl. Plus 325.
No Baltimore.
Field, minus 105. How did this pop, my friend?
You know, what's interesting about this year is, like, how far down am I willing to go? I think I'm willing to go down only 6 teams. Realistically can win. Now, of course, it could happen. But for Minnesota, Green Bay, the Chargers, Houston, or the Jets, I'm just going down my power ratings. I mean, it starts being, boy, it's going to take a confluence of events that are so unlikely, for those teams to get on a run through the road. I mean, it could happen, but I love the idea that it's counterintuitive, right? That, like, I go back to that one college basketball tournament where Connecticut was like 4-1 before the tournament started.
Right.
They should have been like minus 150, right?
Exactly.
I mean, it's always easy after the fact, but by the time we went to the Sweet 16, we're like, oh, that 4-1 was just ridiculous, right? Right.
If we had a projector in back of us, I'd love to show you guys this stuff, just to see. But normally, guys that have these kind of things cannot talk in media, so we're really fortunate here. When you said the Jets, I had to look down. So you have the Jets, the number 11 team in football?
Yeah, I don't think I'm on an island there. I mean, I think people know the Jets are way better than the record. I mean, there's a reason they were favored against Houston, by 2.5. Just last week. But sometimes it's hard, right? This is not just pure math. It's like, what's Jacksonville's power rating? Well, I don't think, we didn't know if Lawrence was going to play. Now we think he isn't, right? Has that been confirmed? I think he's out. And so, like, literally I'll do a derivative power rating where I'll say, well, 50-50, he's out. I'm going to take I did that with Jordan Love last week. But the derivative is a fancy term, but all a derivative is basically a good example of a derivative is we talk about first half. Betting Baltimore first half versus game would be a derivative. You spoke about Washington. Washington is a great first half team. Pittsburgh is a great second half team. So I would encourage you, if you like Washington this week, lay a half, first half, and you can get that minus a half, and they're 2.75 favorite. That's quite cheap.
Steve, let me throw something at you. Let's move to, since we won't be back till next Thursday now, the Monday night game with Miami going into play the Rams. Last time I looked, it was -1. Crack, is it still there or is it moved?
Let's look. You're talking about week 11?
Yeah, Rams are laying, what, 1 to 1.5?
Yeah.
It's funny because Steve and I
week
just...
10, week 10, this week.
Oh,
Week
yeah.
10.
I was going to say, 'cause we actually bet a ton of next week's games
The show-
as soon as we got in.
Why are we betting 8 games week 11 and I've got like 2 plays for week 10? Well, because the numbers are right now. They've been hammered into place. The numbers are like virgin numbers,
Yeah.
and I like virgin numbers a lot.
No, we bet a lot of things, look ahead lines. But yeah, the line is 1 on the Rams.
Still 1.
Yeah.
Do you like that, Steve? or Jim?
When you bet this early on week 11, are there enough, excuse the language, are there enough outs where you can get substantial
Unfortunately, we
money
don't have
down?
DraftKings and FanDuel here in town. Not that they would take our bets anyway. But unfortunately, we don't have them in town. But we do have a couple. We do have a couple in town here that they do have a market up. And we just bet them.
To pull back the curtain, like Westgate takes 3,000 on a side. It's a good bet. All right. San Fran is hosting Seattle. Well, if you recall, just about a month ago, San Fran was laying 4 at Seattle, and since then things have gone pretty badly for Seattle, and the wheels are coming off. 2 teams like the Bears and Seattle, the wheels are coming off on, and now San Fran's laying 6.5, and I'm like, it has to be 7. I mean, obviously. C-Mac could get hurt again, and things could go wrong, or Purdy could pull a groin. But these teams are going in opposite directions, and a key number, I look at the 2s, 2.5s, the 3s, the 3.5s, the 6.5s, the 7s. Those are the ones I pay the most attention to. Answering the question, I like the Rams. I don't understand. Someone just explained this line to me. I have the Rams better than Miami. I know Miami was without Tua, but you can't just say, well, Tua didn't play, so I'm not going to count those games at all. The defense has underperformed. Tua, Buffalo killed Miami even when Tua was playing the first half. It was 28-0. And the Rams are a team on the come that's playing much better. So I have the Rams a better team by a point. I've got a much better coach if the game's close. And I've got the whole West Coast team with the late start time. I love that, where this game starts at 8:30 Eastern, so you got Miami, the wrong biological clocks. And historically, if you did nothing but bet the West Coast team on the late game, you wind up making money.
Well, perfect. Now, I heard somebody talking about that very game this morning. Which coach do you want? Which quarterback do you want? Which set of wide receivers do you want? I mean, you might actually equalize those two, because
the receivers are great.
They both have great. Now, you got home field. You got the travel issue. So when you look at that and you say, that line doesn't make any sense.
And pulling back the curtain a little more on this, and this is one of my favorite things to do. Crack, you do this. You find a team you really like at pick, or +1 or -1, and you bet your balls off, right? You bet way more than you would ever bet, right?
Yes.
Because if you're right on the game, then your team closes -2, and you're like, well, that doesn't do me any good. Because, I mean, if I play pick and I take back +2, I don't even know if that's a profitable middle. But now I've got this big portfolio of Rams. I'm like, now I can start sprinkling in some teasers. With Miami +2 up to +8, the Wong teasers with the next week's action. And so I've got like a big core, I mean, not to give away my whole position, but I love that. I mean, if you can have any game and you've got one side to pick and the other side teased to +8, you're in great shape.
I got another one before you.
Go ahead.
Mainly for you.
For Crack.
Mainly. Fezzik too. All you got. So
The cheesecake with the strawberries on it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Extra strawberries.
No, there is no one who's a better food critic than Crack.
Yeah? Crack, you better tell him about my Uber Eats.
He spends $3,000 a month on Uber Eats. Maybe more.
Can you get me to the Italian-American Club, because Bill won't take me?
Yeah. Go ahead, Ray.
Great food there, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so tonight, so tonight we got the game. So we know Baltimore's got a weak secondary. Not the greatest, not by any means. And we know what Burrow can do. Okay, now the fourth quarter. Okay, we see this over. We see where they think this is going. Okay, all right. Little scramble, little quarterback scrambling prop. Weak secondary. I mean, it's late. I mean, do we see some scrambling here from Burrow late in the fourth?
I saw his rush yard number was like 10 and a half.
in the fourth.
It looks it's for the game, so it looks it looks low, doesn't it?
I mean, juicy.
Juicy. The only thing I would say with that, like live weight, and they put this up, right? You can bet these derivative bets on these players at the end.
It's unbelievable. You could.
The only thing I always tell people to be careful with is what if Joe is ahead by 4 at the end of the game? Okay, I'd be a little bit cautious about betting any team with the lead.
Cover, Steve?
They what?
Can we cover?
Well, but I want to go undefeated. I'm just saying, and famously, like I would argue the worst bad beat of all time was the Kansas City Super Bowl where Mahomes over under rush yards was like 29.5, and he had 45 with 2 minutes to play, and you lost. Because he took 3 straight and -8 kneels.
No. Yes.
I mean, and so it's where I'm going is that you could lose 6 yards on the last if it just broke wrong. That he's taken a couple knees at the very end. So I much prefer the rush yards over for a team when they're losing than when they're winning. So and by the way, I do think Baltimore. I did bet Lamar under. Because look at all these weapons. He just got Deontay Johnson also. So he's got like all these guys. There's only one football. He's got Derrick Henry. He doesn't need to run for 90 yards. And he's a little banged up. Nothing serious.
I can't bet against him. That's like shorting in video. I can't do it.
Derrick Henry?
Lamar rushing.
I bet against the 14-wheeler or whatever he is last week under 90. And it looked good for like 3 quarters until the defense got gassed. Yeah.
Steve, let me ask you this, because something that Jim and I have talked about off air many times about the value of the importance of a head coach and how much it means. If everything is equal, how much does the head coach move a line?
Gosh. Yeah, this is a great question. I wish I had an answer.
I've never heard no one ask this question.
Because back in the Super Bowl, when you looked at last year's Super Bowl, we sat up here, and Mike Scally was here, and we analyzed the Super Bowl. And one of the reasons we lined up on Kansas City was the defensive coach for Kansas City as being the best in the league, or the damn near the best in the league. And that was the thing that pushed us over. Of course, the experience of Mahomes against Purdy was also a factor, but Spags is just great. When the coaches make a difference.
You know, let's talk about Kansas City. Andy Reid should win Coach of the Year. Let me make my case, all right? So look at Miami. They lose their quarterback, can't win a game, right? You look at all these teams that they lose their starting quarterback and they just struggle so bad. So now Green Bay, LaFleur has to be elevated because he's winning with, you know, a running quarterback Willis, like when Love goes out. But you look at Andy Reid, my goodness, he loses his starting running back Pacheco. He's good, right? He loses 2 of his wide receivers, all right? He just picks up Kareem Hunt off the scrap heap. He picks up, you know, like Juju, guy that's out of the league, has been some barometric pressure chamber for 18 months, and he just plugs them in, and they're still the Chiefs. It's just unbelievable the adjustments he can make that Miami can't make, and they just fall off the cliff when their quarterbacks are, or you know, teams like the Saints with injuries, and they can't play a lick.
Are you trying to say that Kansas City might be run a little bit better than the Dallas Cowboys?
Wow. Imagine if you're the dude. You've been traded. You're like, oh yes, when do I report to Kansas City? No, you're going to Dallas.
The one thing I will say about Andy Reid is he knows how to manage clock really well. You get him the lead, and he can grind it out on you, and he will take away possessions from the other team. He will grind it out. He will stop Mahomes from going all over the place, and they'll just start dumping. Stay between the tackles, and he'll grind you out and run out clock and take away your possessions.
And he knows he's trained Mahomes. He's the master of, like we talk about rush yards. If it's 3rd and 8 and it looks like I can pick up 10 in the second quarter out, I'll just go ahead and throw it to Kelsey. But if it's 3rd and 8 and the 4th quarter of the game on the line, just take off and get you the yardage. He selectively picks the best time to move the chains with the 4-minute drill. Spot on.
I have a question. On the bottom of your chart, can I reveal some things?
Yeah.
Who do you have as your worst 2 teams? Because I see them here, and I'm thinking different. So.
Yeah, I got Carolina's the worst team. I got them rated 8.5. That seems way too optimistic, right? I got them 8.5 worse than an average team, and I have the Patriots 7.5 worse than an average team.
I was hoping you were going to say that, and I don't see that here. Oh, it's here.
Yeah. So
I was hoping you were going to say that because since we're on air, there's 2 major line moves on Don Best. Guess who they're on? Carolina and New England. It's unbelievable. And I didn't even see it. I was wondering if you had those 2 last. yeah, Carolina and New England getting bet the most, because what happens is the Giants, of course, will get action. They opened up 4.5, by the way, and they will get action. They're up to 6.5 now. And New England, Chicago opened up 7. They were 6.5, and there's still 1 6.5 left at the win here at Stations, of course. They're the only 2 6.5s left.
I could make a comment on both of those. One game is in Germany. We should mention that.
The Giants game.
So there is no home field advantage there, and God only knows who's going to travel better and adjust. So that's really, kind of flipping a coin. The other thing is with Chicago, there seems to be some internal issues there.
Seems?
And yeah, I mean, that's what you're hearing. We all know that there's fake news, and we don't know if we're all hearing real stuff, but there seems to be problems. So betting against those two teams, I mean, can the Giants really lay 6.5, 7 points to anybody?
Of course not.
Especially
I say no.
3,000 miles away from home?
Yeah, if you can get that game to +7, -20, I would say that's a good bet.
Steve, where do you have the Bears, speaking of that? Because, I mean, they seem to be just on a spiral downward.
Yeah, so I got the Bears 1.5 worse than an average team, so I got them 21st. Jim's spot on here, so they're not betting on New England, all right? No, the wise guys don't like the Patriots. We just hate the Bears. And if you look at that schedule, just from memory, if they don't win this week, they might not win the rest of the year. And I know it's ridiculous with 8 games, and they're going to be like 8-point dogs, but they're literally playing Detroit twice, Green Bay twice, Minnesota, Detroit. I mean, it's just insane. They're going to be an underdog in every single game. And you know what? When you're winning, it's like Bull Durham, right? When you're winning, you can have fungus on your sandals, and you can have your fingernails painted pink. Apparently, this family's in that business. It's all good. We got like an eclectic quarterback, but if you're losing, now we got a problem, right? And there's going to be a lot of losing. Bears under 7.5 wins plus money is a really good bet.
They haven't played a division game yet. The Bears have yet to play a division game yet. They're going to be underdog from here out.
Remember, we said the Gauntlet. A Gauntlet. By the way, that's a great movie, Clint Eastwood. I'm like, I only reference like 70s movies because I'm so old.
He does. He does. He references a lot of
I stopped watching them. Get off my lawn. I don't like the current movies. But we talked about the Steelers facing the Gauntlet. It doesn't look so bad now playing Cleveland twice, but now it's the Bears that are facing the Gauntlet, because those 6 games, my goodness, that'll be difficult.
How many more coaches will be fired before the end of the season?
Good question. Good question. You know, there's a lot of them that we thought.
1.5?
We thought there would be a lot. When Jacksonville was over in across the pond there, boy, we thought he was getting fired.
Don't even bother getting on the plane if they don't win the second one.
That's what they said. They actually said that the announcers were talking about that. Like, do you fly private? I mean, what do you do? No, I would say
take a boat.
Yeah. No, there could be a couple more. I would agree, Steve. During the season, it's embarrassing too. How do you fire someone only a few weeks in? Then the Jets. How many weeks was that in?
Yeah, Salah.
Was it 4 weeks? No, was it 5?
I think they were 2 and 3. Yeah.
Like 5 weeks in,
have you noticed that the Jets' defense is a little bit worse since he's gone?
Yeah.
Step down. Okay.
The
Jets defense was supposed to be great.
They might be a sneaky over team, with their. One thing that drives me crazy about the Jets, I hate Aaron Rodgers. Right, I'm gonna make my case for why I hate him. So
you and Jim both.
I'm right there with.
And so I go to Pebble Beach. My wife's from there, and there's a plaque that says, "Congratulations, Pro-Am winner, some random pro, and Aaron Rodgers." It's a handicap tournament. You get like you say what your handicap is.
Exactly.
So anyone who's played in a bowling league knows the only way to win is to cheat and to sandbag and to have a ridiculous handicap. So that's fine. Somebody wanted you're Aaron Rodgers. You're a Super Bowl champion. Let's say I look at my dad. My dad would be too embarrassed to ever back into with a phony handicap, something like that. That's not an accomplishment. That's basically saying you cheated better than the other people who finished 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And it just goes to speak to all his mannerisms, and a player drops a pass, he rolls his eyes up to the sky. I mean, this guy is just. If Pittsburgh hadn't fumbled in that Super Bowl, he would go down as one of the the biggest choke artists of all time.
You think his ego might be a little bit too large? Maybe a little bit.
Before we go to final thoughts and talk about next week, we have 3 bottles of wine to give away. Compliments of J-Lore. Albert, you got some winning numbers for me that I can call out and find out who's getting our bottles of wine.
And while that's happening, I want to give a shameless plug for where we are. Dom DeMarco's You guys got to come up here and try. His sauces are great. I say sauce, and you can call it gravy if you want. But he's got some recipes from the old school here. His pizzas are great. I like a little more well done than most people. And his desserts are great. Dom DeMarco's great spot. Give it a little shameless plug. What did they say? Oh, happy hour.
I live right up the street from here.
Jim's
Come here
always
all
here.
the time.
Yeah. What's the happy hour?
Oh, the happy hour is ridiculous.
Give us the hours of the happy hour.
It's 2 to 6, and from 2 to 4, it's 50% off all bottles of wine and all pizzas. Until 6, it's 50% off all glasses and bottles of wine.
That's unbelievable. 2 to 4. Try to get a seat in here. No, I mean you could.
No, you can't.
But the place is packed because people aren't just going to come for cheap food, cheap quality food. So this place is a
and
special
plus,
place.
they got a whole happy hour menu of $11: chicken wings, tenders, Philly fries, eggplant pizzettes, Caesar salad, and a 12-inch cheese pizza for $11.
No, and like I said, it's quality too. That's what I like. So,
yeah.
Little shameless plug for Dom DeMarco's and Albert. Let's give some wine away.
And if you wanted to make a great a day of it, we're right here in beautiful Summerlin. It's right next to Red Rock. And so for anyone who's a hiker or just like an outdoors person, you drive that 13-mile drive.
Scenic drive, yeah.
Scenic drive, maybe get out, maybe do a little calico tanks, maybe climb up. When I was younger, I would scramble up. And it's like 700 feet, and you get to the top. And it's a little dangerous, but it's not mountaineering. And then you get a view of the valley. It's just spectacular.
And then you get done with there and you come back here.
Exactly.
I host trivia nights, 2 nights a week here on this patio. It is literally, no joke, it's a 5-week wait list to get in to play trivia that I'm running here on Tuesdays and Thursday nights.
How cool.
I have people, they call them like, hey, can I get in November? I'm like, no, we're looking at December.
Wow, very cool.
So next week on the show with Jim is going to be Doug Fitz and Matt Humans is going to be on the show next week. Matt's been here once before. Doug's going to be a first-time guest on the show. Here's our winners for bottles of wine. Last 3 numbers of 071, 072, and 074. Who's 71? 71. Who's 72? There's 72. And who's got 74 right over here?
Nifty's got one in the Rock Man.
Yeah, all right.
Italians.
You look at this. This is all Italians here. Wait a minute.
I want to bring the country together because everyone who felt that the 71, 72, and 74 seemed a little fixed with the numbers, anyone who didn't win a bottle of wine, put it on me. Absolutely. Everyone gets a bottle of wine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Says man. Good
Very
guy.
nice.
Good guy. Yeah. No, I want to tell you something, Jim. I want to tell you something. A lot of professional gamblers, professional sports bettors, I know a lot of guys that are nits. They don't go for any money, and they think every dollar they make, they say, oh, that has to be reserved for, I have to build my portfolio and build my bankroll. Let me tell you something. One of the most generous guys right here. And I'm saying that, and I think of myself as being an idiot with money. But like, we did a transfer, a simple transfer. Went up to the sports book at one of the sports books in town, and I took $10,000 from my account and put it in his account. And he's like, oh no, I got to give a tip. Well, I said nothing happened. But I'm not even thinking. He had to tip the clerk for just pushing a button to $10,000 to switch in the account.
I got to give that back to you now after the election.
Yeah.
Let's make sure we pay homage to them. Give it up for Bill Krackomberger, Steve Fezzik, and Jim Feist, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Jim Feist Pro Football Handicapping Show. My name's Tommy Canale. I'm the moderator for the show. We will see you next Thursday here at Dom DeMarco's on the patio from noon to 1. Everybody have a good week and good luck with your bets.
I'll be back in December. Love to come back.